Support for Skerial is brought to you by Audible, something we clearly should have done more often last year, while Tim Beck was blowing it in the coaching booth.
This is a Global Tel-Link prepaid call from
Bo Pelini,
an inmate at
Youngstown State University.
From No Coast Bias and WFAKE Lincoln, this is Skerial. One firing told week to week. I'm Chris Hatch. For the last 6 months, I've spent every working moment trying to figure out where a football coach was for 24 hours one November day in Lincoln, Nebraska, back in 2014. This search sometimes feels undignified on my part. I've had to frequent message boards, dig through drunken Twitter posts, who should be fired, who's a Bo leaver and who's not, what administrators were staying after hours and boarding the trustees. And I'm not a detective or a private investigator. I'm not even Dirk Chatelain. But yes, every day for 6 months I've tried to figure out who really did it. Who straightened their immaculate Italian silk sleeves, put their gator-skinned shoes up on their desk, and placed a call to fire a man. Before I get too far into why I'm doing this, I want to ask you a question. How well do you know your boss? Your boss's boss? Would you trust them to have your back? What if you publicly challenged them to fire your ass a year ago after you got curb stomped by a team from the state that encompasses Council Bluffs? Would you still? Here's a case I've been working on. On November 30th, 2014, a coach named Bo Pelini disappeared for the second time that year. The first time was on November 22nd in Madison, Wisconsin, and we'll get to more on that later. But this was his second time going missing, and this time it was for good. He was a fifth-year head coach, a handsome enough man, though the ladies took to his brother more. He had a strong jaw, was highly proficient at raising his voice to the same decibels as tornado sirens, could chew through entire packs of big red gum in 1/4 of football, and he had a deep, deep affinity for crew necks. And he had some moments that leapt out at you as a coach. Soon after defeating Arizona in the Holiday Bowl in 2009, he appeared to have launched Nebraska back to new heights on the football field. But right after narrowly escaping with a win against grand larceny suspect Kirk Ferentz, Bo disappeared from Nebraska. He was discovered a few weeks later by a former college coach on his way through the internet. That coach had stopped online to see if he could buy sweater vests in bulk from Amazon and came across an article on Pelini. He'd noticed a bit of Pelini's crew neck peeking out at him from the webpage. On December 2nd, Bo called the team together in a last-ditch effort to make sure that he had firmly entrenched in them their belief in family, to stay unified, and that Sean Eichhorst was a massive cunt. About 15 days later, audio surfaced of what Bo had said. It wasn't pretty. We'll come back to more of that audio later in the series. 7 weeks after Bo got fired, he got a job at Youngstown State University in Division II. He's been coaching there ever since. I first became interested in this story when I received an email from a concerned and anonymous Husker fan. He knows the program pretty well, is a prodigious letter writer, and he believes that the audio recording was only part of the story. He refused to believe that someone hired by none other than Tom Osborne could say things that sounded like so much of the hogwash he'd heard coming through the speakers at Memorial Stadium. He couldn't believe that Bo's firing was just as it seemed. There had to be more, he believed, to the story. He had read some of my other hard-hitting works of journalism on our website, like my hand turkeys from the coaching staff around Thanksgiving and my MC Hammer parodies about John Papuchis, and wanted to see if I could help investigate things further. Those hilarious parodies, heralded as the dumbest thing I've ever read by Reddit user GetDownUpChuck12 and downvoted voraciously by a pack of feverishly angry nerds, had involved the same coaching staff and the same administrators that the letter writer was concerned with. I agreed to look into things. The fan described Bo to me in that initial email. He said he was hardworking, believed that the best answer to any question from one of those blood sucking media members was making sure people knew that this was a process. He said that Bo was seen frequently doing some good things, and that the coach could be seen swimming in it from time to time, but ultimately meant well. But Bo was an adept swearer, the fan contended, so why would he have so much trouble utilizing better cuss words than he did in the released audio? He had, during 2009, had a defense that ranked among the best in the country, and by God, he had a better winning percentage than Tom Osborne in his first few seasons. Bo, the fan said, knew at the minimum 36 variations of the F word, some of which Pelini himself had created the previous season. When that audio recording first surfaced, it was truly a puzzle. After all, we all see cell phones around us all the time. It's tough to tell who could be recording at any given moment. Apart from muffled audio and a newspaper staff that refused to talk about their source, there wasn't really anything linking anyone to that recording. Just a voice that sounded like Bo, and about 100 eyewitnesses, and a coach that didn't really seem like he would deny having said those things. Like I said, a real lack of evidence. So what tied Eichhorst to the firing? Sean Eichhorst had anti-strutted out to the microphones on that cold November day. He'd had the swagger of a self-conscious tween after leaving the orthodontist with their mouth full of metal for the first time, and skin that can only be described as translucent, and he had claimed to be the one behind Bo's untimely departure. But could Sean have truly acted alone? What if he had? But more importantly, what if he hadn't? There was the physical evidence, of course, watching Nebraska get shoved around on the field by slow, giant white dudes like they were fighting the White Walkers from Game of Thrones. And there was the circumstantial. That audio recording and all the audio of Bo basically taking an auditory dump on his career at Nebraska. But there are two other people in this story I want you to take a moment to think about. One of those people would be Carl. Carl is Bo's older brother. The two brothers had worked together for years and were very close. Carl had used to smoke weed in Bo's office at Memorial Stadium while his brother was out on recruiting trips, and had connected with some low-level weed dealers in Nebraska. Carl had, himself, gotten fired from a gig down south under controversial circumstances. The other person I want you to consider is Nebraska Chancellor Harvey Perlman, a controversial figure in his own right. Harvey will be someone else we'll devote more time to, but you just need to know a few basics. He's a proficient tweeter and tweets the acronym YOLO more than a member of Drake's crew in 2013, and he bears a creepy resemblance to John Clayton from ESPN. By the time I stopped reading through emails on that first day, I took away one thing from my initial look at this incident. No one is denying that Bo got the boot, and for a man obsessed with execution, I felt like not even Bo was really sure who gave him the axe. Or maybe that was just it. What if Eichhorst didn't do it, and he's got all these millions in his bank account while smirking in his penthouse suite? What did Harvey Perlman know about the entire thing? Were the accusations by Bo from the phone calls from coaching purgatory right about his firing not being legit? Someone was lying. I just didn't know who. And either way, anyway, I wanted to know more. And one more thing. What's the deal with Carl, anyway? This is Skerial.